everyone, and thank you for joining another one of TREA's how-to workshops. Our talk for today is on emergency preparedness. And we have some interesting information we'd like to share. It comes from the Red Cross, and that is that in Canada, there are many hazards that affect people daily. They range from home fires and floods to ice storms, wildfires, and power outages. So knowing hazards and understanding how you and your community are at risk will help you be prepared. Statistics actually show that only 1 in 6 people will take all the preparation actions and be ready to go for up to perhaps 72 hours before they can return to their home. So they need to make an emergency plan and make a kit. So being prepared means thinking about all the possibilities. Knowledge and planning do not cost anything, but our own fears may prevent us from considering hazards and their impacts. So consider if you live alone or with a family, if you have children or people who need additional support due to health or mobility issues, if you live in a high-rise building, a basement apartment, or a house. All these factors and more influence what you need to know and how you need to plan and what you need in your preparedness kit. As a family, it's important that you discuss what types of disaster are most likely to happen to you and your community, and for more information on how to identify your risks. So you can discuss this with the city and ask about hazards that happen in your area and what emergency plans they have in place to help people with shelters and evacuation routes. So consider your context and how your family may be exposed to these hazards. Consider how you might be vulnerable to risk, taking into account your own skills and your own capacity to reduce the impact. So TREA is fortunate to have a new handout called Emergency Preparedness 101, which will tell you what's happening in our particular community, London, Ontario.
By definition, emergencies happen when we don't expect them, and often when families are not together. Suddenly, you need to think about your kids at school or elderly parents across town. If phones don't work or some neighborhoods aren't accessible, what will you do? The best way to help ensure your family's safety in these situations is to have an emergency plan. Having a plan and discussing it with loved ones will save time and make real situations less stressful. To get started, let's look at one of 3 scenarios. In our first scenario, you and your family are separated. In an emergency, you'll need a simple way to contact and meet one another if going home isn't possible. Decide in advance on a safe place to meet, like a community center, library, or school. The phone can help too. Long-distance calls may work better than local ones, so select a couple of out-of-town contacts who can help your family communicate and find each other. Let them know about your plan and how they can help. Of course, children are a big concern. If they're in school or daycare, they will need to be picked up. Know the school and daycare's emergency policies, and if you can't pick up the kids, designate someone who can. And talk to your kids about your family emergency plan. Teach them basic personal information so they can identify themselves if they become separated from you and who to call, like 911 or your local emergency number, to get help. In our second scenario, you're together at home. In this case, listen to the radio or television for information from local authorities and follow their instructions. They may advise to turn utilities off or on, so it's important to know the location of your home's water valve, electrical panel, gas valve, and floor drain. Make sure everyone also knows the location of your family emergency kit and fire extinguisher. In our third scenario, you have to evacuate. Everyone should know your home's safe exits and best places to go. And remember your pets, who may not be allowed in shelters or hotels. Identify kennels or friends' homes where they can go in an emergency. Elderly family members or those with disabilities or special needs should also be a part of your plan. List the medications and supplies they may need in the event of an evacuation and any information caregivers will require. If they live alone, ask a friend or neighbor to check in on them or help them evacuate. In addition to your plan, documents will help you stay organized. Make copies of birth certificates, passports, wills, and insurance info. These documents, along with photos of your family members, should be kept at work or other safe locations. Having a plan is also part of being a responsible community member. Local authorities will react swiftly, but they can't reach everyone at once. Being prepared allows these responders to help those in urgent need first. So, do your part. Learn about the emergencies that can happen where you live and plan for situations that are more likely to occur. Take 20 minutes today and create your family emergency plan. Get started at getprepared.ca.
Tonight we welcome Per Tonnisen, and he's going to talk about emergency preparedness.
So tonight I was going to use an article that is entitled How to Pack Your Bug Out Bag. Now, it isn't any of our handouts, but we will get to our handouts soon after. So there is a bit of a story inside of this information. So I'm going to go ahead and just share it with you. Deciding what to pack, also customizing your kit, testing your gear, organize your bug out bag, packing the bag, and keeping your gear dry, and finally staying low key. That's an important one. Even though it's important, it is last. Choosing the right bug out bag. No doubt you've spent months, maybe even years, carefully planning out potential bug out scenarios and collecting the items you'll need to survive should one of those scenarios actually occur. It's now time to select the perfect bag for your kit. One of the key questions in choosing your bag is whether you select a bag big enough to hold all the items you need, or a bag that best fits your body and sacrifice some of your items if there isn't enough room in the bag. The answer is, it depends. What features should you focus on? The number one feature you want from your bug out bag is mobility. If you can't move with it, what's the point? Therefore, having a good fit is a must. In addition to comfort, the pack must weigh enough to carry whatever you're going to need. This sometimes means paring down your items to only the most essential, or packing more creatively. With mobility as your number one priority, the best strategy is to find a bag that is most comfortable for your body type and tailor your items to fit in it. However, if you have a can't live without item that requires using a certain type of bag, you may consider packing your kit around your bag. So let's get back to Rick, our wannabe prepper. Having simply bought the most expensive bag he could find without consideration to how it would fit his body, he found his bag way too heavy. Additionally, not having tested the bag, he found that the straps dug into his shoulders and made it almost impossible to walk for more than a mile at a time. Instead of being the life-saving asset he intended it to be, his bug-out bag has turned into a hindrance. Deciding what to pack. There are myriads of lists available online that can provide you with suggestions for essential bug-out items. Our list here tonight is this list. However, keep in mind, no two kits are the same. The person who knows best what you should be in your survival kit is you. and you should customize it to what you need. So customizing your kit. What you pack depends entirely on your own situation and location, depending on temperature of the climate and where you live, and what you may be up against, whether it's water, whether it rains a lot, whether there's snow. So customizing based on your own situation is essential. A well-stocked urban kit could be useless in the wilderness, while a bug-out kit perfect for California wouldn't hold up for a minute against Canadian winters. That's just one suggestion. The most difficult part of packing is deciding what goes in and what stays out. You can never be 100% sure of what you'll need should disaster strike. So the best you can do is make an educated guess. But test your gear. This is an important subheading. A great way to test your kit is to actually go and try it out. Spending time with your bag under non-disaster conditions will not only help you determine what is essential and what may be missing, but also allows you to test your equipment and become more proficient with its use. A good adage to remember is that if you have two, you have one. And if you have one, you have none. Always bring a backup. So here's one way you might organize your gear. Generally, you must have a bug-out bag items that will fall into the following categories. Number one, shelter and safety for protection. Water is number two. Ways to make fire, number three. First aid is number four. Hygiene is number five. Food, number six. And tools, number seven. So the types of items you choose for each of these categories will depend on your personal situation, but the greatest tool you can add to your kit is knowledge. The more you know, the more useful your pack will be in an emergency situation, and the less you will have to pack. For those with minimal survival training, packing a survival guide is a must. And I will also show you a download that is available on the internet this evening that has so many wonderful things in it. Develop a mental and physical preparedness needed is to survive in a disaster scenario. So having mental awareness or physical preparedness is a must in these disaster scenarios. So how about our friend Rick? How did he fare? Unfortunately, not so well. Since he didn't bother to try out any of his gear, he found that he couldn't even use half of the items that were in his bag. His $300 water filtration system, completely useless without the knowledge of how to forage for water. Thankfully, he's found one item he actually can use and that he desperately needs: aspirin. Unfortunately, it expired a year ago. Packing the bag. When packing your bag, much like choosing your bag, mobility is the key, while utility is a close second. The organization of your pack cannot be haphazard and must be approached with the same methodical process as planning for your bug-out kit. However, keep in mind that the purpose of the bug out bag is not for hiking or camping trips. It's to save your life in case of an emergency. As such, you want to prioritize the packing of your survival kit slightly differently than you would a hiking or camping backpack, while still keeping in mind basic rules for properly distributing your load. Now, there is a video a little later on how to pack your bag so that your load is properly distributed. So, things that you all want to consider in packing your bag, though, 3 of them are non-urgent, urgent, and emergency. Your non-urgent items would go into your pack first. Non-urgent items are those that won't be retrieved with the same urgency and include items such as extra clothing, bedding, hygiene, miscellaneous supplies. Your urgent items would be packed second for easier access and includes such items as shelter, water, food, and fire starting items. Now, the last things you want to pack are emergency items. And these are items that need to be accessed within a moment's notice. These items should be kept either on your person or in easy reach pockets on your pack. And these include communication gear such as radios, walkie-talkies, or whistle, defense gear, flashlights, personal tools such as survival knife, foul weather gear such as your poncho. So within each of these categories, you should compartmentalize your items based on a system that will make it easy for you to find what you're looking for in a hurry. When packing your items, look for creative ways to save space. Some popular tricks include wrapping duct tape around a water bottle, as well as packing items inside other items, such as your cooking pots. The next key is keep your gear dry. Above all else, remember to waterproof your items. You can use professional grade plastic bags or Ziploc bags, and we have examples of that here. Just ensure your items are protected. It's important to keep even your bag lined. So if you put a great big plastic bag inside your bag before you put your items in, that will mean that your items will stay dry, even in a rainstorm and if the bag gets wet on the outer extremity. Okay, here's that last key. Stay low key. While mobility and urgency should be your foremost concerns when packing your bug-out bag, it's also important to keep in mind safety. Don't make it obvious how much gear you're packing. In desperate times, you don't want to become a target for scavengers. The more your bag looks like a simple backpack, the less likely or less like a survival powerhouse, the safer you will be. This is known as the gray man principle. Once you've packed your bug-out bag, don't toss it in a corner and forget about it. Your kit should be constantly evolving to reflect your lifestyle and also should be in location easy for you to grab. We recommend a quarterly review to ensure the items you've chosen are still the best choices and that nothing has expired, leaked, or been damaged. For tips on periodic bug-out bag reviews and checklist to help make sure you have everything covered, check out our article, How Often Should You Update Your Bug-Out Kit? So just to conclude here, I bet you're wondering how Rick's faring. As you'd expect, not too well. Since his store-bought bug-out bag was packed more for show than for utility, he had to stop and unpack his entire bag every time he needed something, slowing him down at critical points. However, he doesn't need to worry about his pack anymore because, as you guessed it, someone took it on him. Rick would have been better off pocketing his $3,000 that he spent on his bag and spending it on the individual items and packing it himself. So don't end up like our friend Rick by letting your packing become an afterthought. Put the same effort and analysis into packing your kit as you did planning it. When disaster strikes, it won't be the guy with the biggest bug-out bag who wins. It'll be the guy or the person who best knows how to use it.
There are some basic concepts for packing your backpack that make carrying your gear, no matter how much you have, much easier. There are 4 things to remember when loading up your pack. Heaviest gear goes closest to your back. Lighter weight gear goes away from your back. Frequently used items go on the top, and less used items go on the bottom. And it's usually helpful to divide up your gear before you start. You definitely won't need your sleeping bag right away, so it's an easy one to put on the bottom, along with other items that you won't need until you make camp. Your heaviest items go on top of your sleeping bag, close to your spine, and centered. Usually these items are your food and water. The goal is to create a comfortable center of gravity. Around the heavy gear and to hold it in place, wrap softer, lighter weight items like parts of your tent or clothing. Stash frequently used items, such as your map and compass, snacks, and other essentials, within easy reach. Finally, tighten up all those compression straps to limit the load shifting and keep your pack looking as sleek as possible. By taking time to consider the weight of your gear and how often you need to access it, you can pack a backpack that will make all of your adventures more enjoyable.
The handout kit on building your own kit to put in your survival bag. There are quite a number of different things, but it is from FEMA. And that's important to realize because there is an over 300-page book from FEMA that goes into much more detail. Now, in this particular handout here, on page 3, I actually show the table of contents of that book. And it goes into quite deep items, natural hazards, thunderstorms, windstorms, extreme heat, earthquakes, volcanoes, you name it, it's pretty much got it. Technical hazards or technological hazards, household chemical emergencies, nuclear power plants, things of this nature. It talks about terrorism. It talks about biological threats, explosions, chemical threats, nuclear blasts, radioactivity. We all need to know something about this. Well, this book has it. This information is just an excerpt of information that was taken from that book. So building this kit, we want to look at the basics that we have in our kit. Water, 1 gallon of water per person per day at the very least. We may want to pack more. And that's where your water filter comes in, because you will need more. We all will. Food, at least enough for 3 days supply. So either batteries or a hand crank radio, so you can be informed as you are in a situation. You want to know what's going on in your surroundings, whether it's in your immediate surroundings or in the world around you with other people. The next thing, flashlight. So I have that here. First aid kit. We have something like it here. Extra batteries for many of different things that you might have, whether it's walkie-talkies, two-way radios, to communicate between people in your family. Whistle that can, now if you can whistle on your own, or if you can use your 2 fingers, then you can at least let people know you're in trouble. Dust mask to help out, help filtering contaminants, or when we are in a pandemic. Sheeting or duct tape for shelter is also good to have. Wrench or pliers. Now why would you need these? To turn off any utilities. Water needs a wrench to turn it off. And there are other items as well. Gas main may need a wrench to turn that off at your home before you leave the house. You don't want to come home to a big hole in the ground. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, plastic ties for personal sanitation. Manuals and maps. Okay. You also have a manual can opener to open up the cans that you might have brought, and a cell phone with a charger. Now, you can also have a solar charger, and that would continuously charge your, whether it's rechargeable batteries that you brought for your two-way radios, or rechargeable, most cell phones nowadays are rechargeable, and you can recharge them from any device, such as even this one here. It is a USB charging device. Put water in here, have a flame or any kind of heat on here, and it charges your phone. And this device was not very expensive. This one here, well, this of course is your stove. You would either use pellets or wood pellets, or small kindling, which goes in, and then you can light your fire inside. It's a double burning stove, so it actually is quite efficient. But you can not only heat your food at the same time as charging. Now you have to have something cold. So water, which probably needs to be changed out on a fairly regular basis, in order to have hot section, cold section. And the computer component in here, or the electronic component, sorry, in here, translates it into 5.1 volts of electricity to use to charge your phone or other devices through a USB. See, supplies, Medication. Medication is a personal thing. So each of us may have things that we need to take. So that's why this particular pack has to be, it's for each person to pack their own. Okay? Any thoughts? Okay. Non-prescription medications such as pain relievers, anti-diarrhea medication, antacids, and laxatives should also be packed. Glasses and possibly contact lens solution. Now, if you have children, infant formula, bottles, diapers, wipes, diaper rash cream, things like that. If you have pets, pet food, and extra water for your pet is also important. Cash or traveler's checks. Cash is usually accepted by most people. Now, if having small amounts like $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, but nothing larger, it's going to be useful in giving change as well. Family documents such as copies of insurance policies, identification, so maybe possibly even passport, bank account records, and they should be in a waterproof portable container so they don't get damaged. Sleeping bag or a warm blanket for each person. Complete change of clothing appropriate for the climate that you're in, and sturdy shoes is also important if you're going to be doing a lot of walking. Okay. Fire extinguisher. Now, it may not necessarily be needed on your trip away from the house, but if you're in the house, definitely a fire extinguisher is needed. Matches or lighter, and we have both here. Feminine supplies and personal hygiene items, mess kit, paper cups, plates, paper towels, plastic utensils, paper, pencil, books, games. I brought a set of cards to keep folks entertained, because sometimes you'll be out for a long period of time. 72 hours is a long period of time if you have to be away from the house. Maintaining your kit, you want to make sure that if you do take canned goods, that you do check them on a regular basis. Check them. If they're just about to expire, why not use them at the next meal and then put in a fresh can? Okay, so something like that. And replace items as needed. And every family's needs are going to change and differ. Children grow. Infants grow to children, and children grow into teenagers, and of course, so on and so forth. And we want to have possibly a kit for every situation at home, at work, and one for the vehicle. We're going to be sheltering in place. If it happens in the spur of a moment, then we definitely want to have at least a small emergency kit in each location. So that is the quick rundown on the ready build a kit. So that's the other thing that we want to keep in mind as well. It's for a short period of time. Now, pet food, pets often will eat human food too. So those are some things that you want to be aware of as well. Dogs will eat just about anything when they are in an emergency situation or if they've been without for quite some time. Do you have water bottles at home that were store-bought? You know the plastic single-use water bottles?
No, we don't have that.
You don't have those? So you have containers that you fill up and take with you when you're going places?
Yeah.
Well, several of those, it would do well to have those. The other option would be to have Life Straw, the company Life Straw, has a water bottle that actually you can scoop up the water and the filter is on the lid. You pop that in, screw the lid on, and you suck through the straw. So the water is contaminated in the bottom section, but as you're sucking it through, it's filtering it before it gets to you. So then rivers, streams, and things of that, knowing how to scavenge for water, shall we say, becomes important then. And there are many, many different websites that you can go to in order to find out how you can actually. There's even on one website how to build a small filter if you didn't bring your own. So what you have to do is you collect grass and you put that, you have that as one layer. So that's actually your top layer, that goes in last. So the first item that you put in is charcoal. Charcoal from your campfire, okay? So it's the large black pieces that are in the fire pit when you're done. That you take in, you mush, and you put it on the bottom. If you can leave it in larger chunks or some in larger chunks, that would be great. Sand goes in next. Sand, you have a fairly large, even if you have a water bottle, there are many places where there's garbage. You might find a used water bottle. Cut the bottom out and then put a piece of felt over top of the spout, and then you put your charcoal in, your sand in. You would probably fill that to almost 3/4, and then you put grass in for the rest of the filter. And then you pour the dirty water in, and then what comes out the bottom, you will collect in a sanitary cup or device that will hold your clean water. It's a makeshift water filter.
And then you boil it.
Then you can boil it if you wish, but you can probably also drink it. But definitely, if you're going to, it depends on where you get the water from. But then it would be safe to boil it for 2 to 3 minutes, and then let it cool, and then consume it. If you're doing the boiling method, they suggest up to 20 minutes of boiling. You would probably want to have they call it a foil blanket. It's very, very thin, it's micro thin, but it's shiny on both sides. What you do is you put that around the person, and then you put a blanket on them or a sleeping bag around them. Now, that helps to reflect the body heat back into the body, okay? But the cushion around it keeps everything from, or the heat from being lost, okay? So that's one thing that you definitely want to have in a winter kit. Of course, you would also maybe pack woolly underwear, long underwear, or pack extra t-shirt or shirt to keep yourself. So you would want to you would want to dress in layers in the colder seasons for sure, because if you have extra layers, then you're only going to change out the layer that becomes moist or that gets wet, okay? And do that as quickly as possible, because hypothermia does set in fairly quickly in the wintertime if you don't have a fire going. Okay. So when you're finished with the food for the evening, what you want to do is you want to find a tree with a relatively high branch, but low enough that you can actually throw a rock over top of that branch. You take your rope, tie a rock to the tie the rope to the rock, and then tie the rope onto your backpack. Put your food in the backpack. Throw the rock over the branch, out as far as you can, but making sure it's heavy enough to carry the load of the food, and then hoist the bag up high enough that a bear won't get at it, and then tie off the string. You can still, of course, keep some tools and things at the bottom to be able to fasten the rope to the trunk of the tree, so that you'll be able to hoist it back down again later. When was the last ice storm? We had power outages for days, and power wasn't restored to many people for between 7 to 10 days. So having enough food and water, even at home, is important. And this kit isn't just for when you leave the house. This kit can also be used right in your own home. So having extra things at home for up to 10 days beyond what's in your pack is going to help you out as well. So let's say you have for 3 days in your pack, and for 7 days at home, you now have for 10 days, which is going to really help you to stretch everything out.
If there was a power shortage, you'd have to respond.
Well, oftentimes when there's a power outage, natural gas is often not cut off. However, with many appliances today, if they're not battery backup, then they could shut down because they do need hydro or power in order to function. But if the older technology is available, then in many cases, they do not shut down. If there's a battery backup system available for the technology, let's say a fireplace, a natural gas fireplace, or a propane fireplace, of course built in specifically. Those items, many of them, all they have is a low voltage thermostat, and it's a probe inside that delivers enough electricity, a millivoltage, to operate the coil for the gas. And it's needed in order for the thermostat to control the furnace or the fireplace coming on and going off, so that the temperature can be regulated properly in the home. Having that backup battery, or having the solar panels, a few solar panels to have some backup power, even generators. Many people have generators nowadays. If you have batteries, then you could possibly borrow some power from a neighbor, even ask them to charge up some batteries for you if your cell phone's running low, or other things. Oftentimes, except during COVID. I mean, during these times, we have to be cautious as to who we invite into our bubble, right? So that is something to consider. Maybe even allowing them to run an extension cord over. Then we have the 6 feet separation. Maybe we can plug in for a little while during a certain amount of time to charge certain items that we can do with rechargeable flashlight, rechargeable tools, there's a lot of rechargeable items out there nowadays that we could utilize. And with LED technology, the battery power lasts an awful long time. It, however, doesn't give off a whole lot of heat. In the wintertime, as we are getting to that time of year now, it's something to think about. So do your own research to find out what you can do in your own home in order to stay warm during a power outage. We have some handouts that will be posted on the website as well for anyone that's interested in where you can find the information. Then you can be prepared for an emergency if it should happen. So thank you everyone for your participation, and we hope this is helpful.
And thank you, Per, for your knowledge and wisdom, sharing it this evening. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.